Hey, Earth Explorers, we're getting wound up here, starting to add all of our streams to our feed. And in about 2 minutes, we will add our good friends at Revolution Radio. Go ahead and tune in, get in the chat room, get your popcorn, and get ready. We're going to rock this program tonight. We're also live on Foxhole, Facebook, Twitch, DLive, Twitter, YouTube, and everything is being archived on Odyssey. No excuses. More minute. freedomslips.com in the number one listener supported network in America, possibly in the world, supporting Revolution Radio. We are the voice of the revolution. Hi, Brandy. Good to see you in the chat room. Coming to us from Dallas, Texas. Tube. Great in Texas. Paul. Second now. Step on the other host. Leaving on the Revolution Radio Network. I'll listen. Coleman. A night. Revolution Radio segment of America Free Radio.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
We did not engage in conflict that was out of line with our mission.
Is it disloyalty? Is it treason to oppose the hands of tyranny? Never!
I will never send troops anywhere on a mission of that kind without telling them that if somebody shoots at them, they can darn well shoot back.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty! Oh, give me death!
A dark cloud is finally lifting across the world as U.S. military intelligence and their global partners are destroying the deep state criminal power structure that has ruled over our planet for hundreds of years.
We are free with the God, and we shall not yield the right to any power on earth.
Hi, I'm Scott McKay. The world is at, and I am your host on The Tipping Point on Revolution Radio, where every Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, bring you the latest in take down of this global criminal empire.
Image of
We'll get the raw, hard truth here from the tipping point. So come join us Mondays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern in Studio B at revolution.radio.
This is the people's war. It's our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. May God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Here we go. Hour 1. And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, live from an undisclosed location east of Appalachian Mountain. This is where the past meets the future. Here the results are always positive. Might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear safely traveling with us. We are streaming to you live on Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported network in America, possibly in the world. You're already being taxed every payday, and money is being sent to NPR to pay for their fine $10 million building and all that propaganda they 24 hours a day. So why not voluntarily tax yourself and make a monthly contribution to freedomslips.com. You know, if 100,000 of us did that, just a couple dollars a month, that's the amount of quarters you toss in the coffee holder in your car. $2 a month, 100,000 people, we could change the world. We could change the world. We are changing the world, just not fast enough. So we're also streaming to you live in video format on Facebook, Twitch, DLive, Twitter, YouTube, although I understand from the chat room that YouTube is throttling us a little bit tonight, so it's a little choppy. If you want to bail on YouTube and go to one of the other platforms, I wouldn't blame you, although on your way out, you might want to hit that top chat like Freedom just did and would it make a nice contribution. He says, fan character jumping in the air in front of a big red heart with pom-pom in their hand. That's available to you on YouTube. May not be available in the other formats. And everything's being archived on Odyssey. And don't forget, premium feed. Nice sound, great bandwidth, and great picture is on Foxhole. If you want to become part of our Foxhole community, this is what's replacing YouTube. It's going to replace YouTube, especially for live feed. Now, if you want to learn how to, tune your 1969 Mustang or how to crochet, great. YouTube is great. But if you want live news, live commentary, live analysis, you have to go to Foxhole. You have to go to these platforms. Welcome, everyone. And by the way, shout out to Paul in Australia. He's catching our live feed tonight. That is rare for him. He's on the other side of the planet down under there, and it's a different time zone. So thanks, Paul, for being part of the program tonight. Horses Latitudes out there on YouTube. It's choppy. Yeah, you can always go to DLive or Twitch or Foxhole. Alan, see you out there, flawless. Here without you guys. All right, let's get right to it. We have a ton of news to go through tonight. My first story I call United We Fall. Airlines and the Airline Pilots Association have hatched a scheme to incentivize, force pilots to accept one of the controversial made-for-TV vaccines. Get vaccinated or be permanently grounded and unable to work. That's the company statement. I quote, United Airlines and the Airline Pilots Association have openly released a monetary bonus to those that decide in favor of the jab, offering 13.5 hours of flight pay bonus, which ends up being anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Depends on your seniority level. And that's according to Red Voice Media, a reporter named Peters. The truth is, United Airlines is going to give pilots the choice: get jabbed or be grounded, essentially giving pilots an ultimatum to get vaccinated, their income. Now, this has been ruled unconstitutional. But now keep in mind, this is primarily happening in Canada. Yeah. According to the reports, many cities and airports now require pilots to be vaccinated against the made-for-TV virus. If a restricted city appears in an unvaccinated pilot's monthly schedule, that pilot is going to be removed from that trip. And if a trip becomes a vaccine destination after the monthly schedule is released and inside 2 weeks before the trip segment, the unvaxxed pilot is going to remove from the trip, but pay protected and placed on standby for the days. Police are designed to force out, policy is designed to force out non-compliant senior pilots, those are the ones that cost them the most money, and force junior pilots into the inoculation or give up everything they've worked for. It's a pretty tough haul to get that seniority in that kind of field. It's not something you just jump in and immediately start making big money. If you started flying 737s, you're going to make about $40,000 a year. And that's not enough to support a family these days. And that's not considered the big iron. But once you get up to a certain number of hours, I'd say over 5,000 hours, which is roughly 5 years of flying, 4 years of flying as a junior pilot, you can move to an airline like Southwest. Southwest only flies 737s, and then you can climb up the scale pretty quickly, $55,000, $65,000 a year. But you get to the big iron I'm talking about, 767s, 747s, 777s, that's called the big iron. Then you can get up in the neighborhood of $150,000 a year. Of course, you're gone a lot further and gone a lot longer from home, too, because you're only allowed to fly so many hours in a day, so many hours in a month. But if you're on these long hauls, these 11, 13, 14-hour flights, they take 3 crews. So you're on the plane, but you're not flying. You're a passenger. And then sometime when that first crew that took the airplane off, they run out of hours. They've flown there 4, 5, or 6 hours. Then the second crew takes over. They fly there 4, 5, or 6 hours. And then the third crew comes in and lands the airplane. And I believe that turns are considered an hour. So a turn is anytime the landing gear touches the ground. That's considered an hour, because that's a lot more work than just staying on course and watching the gauges and communicating with nav aids. So a man representing the United Airlines branch of the union has reportedly said that a pilot's comparison of the program to Nuremberg Code is more than offensive, and he writes, and I quote, this is the pilot that sent the note. When we round them up, seize their belongings, and put them in trains, work camps, then tattoo them with ID numbers, shave their heads, make them wear prison clothes, and force them to do our labor, starve them, do actual vivisection experimentation, then poison or shoot them, burn the bodies in ovens or bury them in mass unmarked graves, then we can bring up Nuremberg, he adds. But until then, they can go get a effing shot and collect the $4,000, or they can shut the F up. That's what was reportedly said, and that's what this pilot reported to the public. And this is going on out there. And if this is going on in that industry, it's probably going on in other industries too. And, I just have to tell you, it's my skin and my choice. If I want to take the jab, I'll take the jab. But for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till the human trials are over. And for me, that's about a year. So I'm going to watch 150 million Americans. And if it continues like it is right now, which is more vaccine deaths related directly to the vaccine than deaths related to the made-for-TV virus, I'm sorry, I'm opting out. I'm opting out. Life of Brian, thank you very much for that contribution. But it's the words. Best radio on the air. Bye-bye NPR. Doesn't get any better than that, Brian. Doesn't get any better than that, and I appreciate that more than you know. Been at it for 17 years. It takes a while to build this skill and put all this equipment together and become good at hacking into all the various programs that make this possible. But that's not really what does it. It's you that makes it. I can give you the voice. I can give you the analysis. I can put the stories together, apply my intellect to it. But without you guys, this show is nothing. Everyone knows that. Sean Hannity knows it. Rush Limbaugh knew it. Everyone knows it. I appreciate you. And LA Addict says, I'm not getting any vaccine now or ever. It could be. It could be. Yeah. And same thing. Flawless in the USA says, same here. I can wait. My body, my choice. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, if somebody says, are you going to take the jab? My answer is, not yet. Don't you want to wait till the human trials are over? And they're going to go, what? What are human trials? Well, I mean, all the animal trials, all the animals died. So don't you want to wait for the human trials to get done? I mean, 150 million out there with at least one part of the jab. About 40% of them are not getting the second jab. They had enough go around with the first one, and they're not going for round two. 40%, that's pretty dang high. You're already invested in one jab, you might as well get the second one. But I don't know. All the reported deaths, and the deaths are, some people are dying in their sleep as young as 13 years old, but some people are ended up in wheelchairs and blood clots, and their eyes are, blood vessels in their eyes are busting, and holy crap. Who wants to mess with that? Don't you just want to wait till all the data is in? And maybe the data isn't cleaned like it is under a communist regime. If it comes back under an American regime where patriots are running it, maybe the truth will come out. But it'll take a while. It will take a while. Patriots get back in charge. This stuff goes around and around and around in courts and commissions and agencies and bureaus, and then finally it comes out, oh my God, 2 million people died from the vaccine. Hey, what are you going to do? There's no turning back, dude. You had the steel in your arm. Why don't you just wait? Why don't you just wait and see what happens? I'm not saying don't get it. I'm just saying wait. Wait till the human trials are done. And if you really want to have the truth, you really want to know, well, gosh, what if I don't get jabbed? And what if I get the disease and it kicks my butt and I die? Well, why don't you protect yourself? You can protect yourself one really good way, and that's knowledge with some free samples. And you can get those. They're available. All you have to do is go to my store. Go to brooksagnew.com, click on the store link. Now you have to scroll down a little bit. Maybe should we do that right now? We're kind of in between stories, but let me go ahead and pull that up here. Hang on a second here while I pull screen share. There it is. Okay. I got to pull the website up. That takes just a snap. Great look. All right, so here we are. Screen. Here we go. So this is my website. Lots of you have been to it. I know it's fine. But right up here at the top is the store link. So I'm going to click on the store link. This is going to take you to the store. Of course, all my books are for sale there. But we're after one thing. We want to show you one thing very, very clear. We're running a lot. We're eating up a lot of bandwidth just doing all these video feeds. Okay, so this is the store. And you just page down past all the Amazon best-selling books. And right here, you see this red band right here. It says, click the button below for an ivermectin special report. So we're going to click that button right there. And that is going to take us to a website that has a report on it. This is an ivermectin report. Now, the report is substantial, but it has all the information that you need about what ivermectin does, what it doesn't do, how safe it is, what the risks are. All that stuff is there. And this is such a good report. We're charging $60 for this report. Okay? It's a report. It's just an electric download. I'm going to send it to you with a click, and you're going to get it. And with that, if you'll see right here, it says samples will be mailed directly to your address. I don't say samples of what, but if you look right on this image here, it will tell you how many samples are coming and what the size of the samples are. So I'm just saying, if you like good reports, this is a good one. Comes with some benefits. There's $10 added for shipping, so it's going to come out to $70 if you're in the U.S. or Canada. And then it's going to be shipped directly to your address, not from me. It's going to be shipped directly from the source. So you're going to get two things, a report and samples. And the samples are free. We are not selling anything. We're not selling anything at all. All we're doing is selling you knowledge to help yourself stay safe without accepting any permanent foreign substances into your body. Okay? It's that simple. All you have to do is go there and take advantage of it. Been looking for it. I've been looking for it. Okay? I've been looking everywhere for it. I scan all the time. And it was just synergy that I was able to make this connection and find this source literally in Japan that will ship directly to my listeners. That's where it is. All right, now let's talk about gold a little bit. It's cold filtered water. Chlorine's great. Use it as a kind of a bread wrapper. You go to the store, you buy a loaf of bread, it has plastic around. That's to keep germs off of it and hold the moisture in and just basically preserve the bread until you get a chance to open it and take out a slice and put your PBJ on it and eat it. Same thing with the water filter. That chlorine and all the oxygen taken out of that water, it comes through the pipes, makes its way to your house, pretty much sterile, no bugs growing in it. And then you run it through a filter, strip the chlorine off, which is the same as the wrapper, and you get chlorine-free, lead-free water and just drink it. And that's what you should do. I don't even brush my teeth with tap water. All right, there's a bunch of fake gold out there. You don't have to worry about it. Maybe the BIS, the Bureau of International Settlements, has to worry about it. Because the gold industry this last week was quite shaken when it discovered that 83 tons of fake gold bars were used to back loans worth 20 billion yuan in China. Imagine that. Fake gold backing loans in China. A country that's 10 times more in debt compared to its gross domestic product than the United States was, America was, in 1929 before the Depression. 10 times more in debt compared to its gross domestic product. But it's okay. They're using fake gold to back their loans. Now, while Chinese authorities have not said whether the real gold exists and where it might be, an insider claims to know what happened. One of China's largest gold jewelry manufacturers, King Gold Jewelry Inc., they were busted in a major fake gold scandal earlier this year. We didn't cover the story because I didn't think it was important then, but now I see the significance. The company used 83 tons of gold bars to back loans worth about $3 billion from 14 Chinese financial institutions. Now, these would be the same Chinese financial institutions that benefited Hunter Biden, and the same ones that benefited several other Democrat officials who were caught with loans and even bank accounts with Chinese banks. These are the banks we're talking about. Same banks. The amount of gold will be equivalent to about 22% of China's annual gold production. However, the media reported in this month that the gold bars all were phony. They were just copper, and they were covered in gold to look like gold bars. They feel pretty heavy. Copper's pretty heavy. You know, it's not far down the periodic chart from gold. But the company and its executives denied any wrongdoing. Oh, we don't know anything about it. No, we have no knowledge whatsoever. King Gold, see, this stuff is audited every now and then. You know how it's audited? They take a little drill bit and they drill into the bar, and the shavings that come out are then melted, or they're put into an XRF. XRF is X-ray fluorescent spectroscopy, and what it basically does is bombard that sample with X-rays, which sputter off electrons from upper shells in that atom or molecule, and then when those electrons are filled in, then they emit a photon. That's why it's called fluorescent spectroscopy. And when that photon comes off, it reveals the exact nucleus that is that metal. And that's how you can tell whether it's copper or gold, because the nucleus is a specific, let's say, a specific gravitational weight. We call it an atomic weight. But we can tell that weight by that frequency of that photon. We have catalogs and catalogs on stuff. And that's how they tell. So they drill into these bars and they examine the shavings from down inside the bar, and that's how they can tell, guess what? These bars are copper. So, by the way, King Gold, if up until, just after July 4th, they were listed on NASDAQ. Yeah, They were listed on NASDAQ. Now, in order to be consistently listed on NASDAQ, your stock has to be worth at least $5. Okay? If you slip below $5, you can go to the window and you can make it up if you think your earnings are going to come up, and you can stay above that $5 in the next month or so. But if you significantly slide, and I'm going to show you a slide, baby, their stock, King Gold Jewelry's, on their NASDAQ listing, it slid 88% all the way down to 13.3 cents. That, you can't stay on the NASDAQ with that. So next month, which is not very long, it's 2 weeks from now, King Gold Jewelry has voluntarily agreed to delist from NASDAQ. So all you people that invested in King Gold Jewelry, you're pretty much screwed. And, it's going to have effects. I can guarantee you that. We'll cover them. We'll keep you posted. But the Chinese authorities have not revealed where the real gold is, because, the gold existed at one time or another, right? And then they swapped it out for this counterfeit stuff. It may not exist at all. It may have been stolen and never revealed, or they may have gotten these fake bars past the bank to get the loans. Although I don't know any bank worth its salt that would not drill a bar. Anyway, Easy Way told NTD. NTD is a major publication in the metals field. Told the publication that the real gold bars were swapped for faked ones and smuggled out of China to, guess where? Hong Kong, where they were sold below market prices. In other words, they were laundered out. Because when you steal gold bars, you have exactly $0 and 0 cents in those bars. So do you have to have $1,300 an ounce for that gold, or $1,800 an ounce? No. You'll be perfectly happy to accept $500 an ounce to get rid of those bars. Because what those bars are going to do is they're going to melt those bars down. Those serial numbers are going to disappear in a flash of 1200 degree heat. Going to be over with, gone. And that gold's going to be something else. It's going to be jewelry. It's going to be chain links. It's going to be something that makes a lot of money. And that gold's going to be mixed in with other gold and laundered out. Anyway, the reason this guy knew so much about it is he actually claimed to be one of the middlemen. Now, the publication described Mr. Wei, as a member of Chinese so-called red aristocracy from the Manchu ethnic minority. In addition, his father was a senior communist official and his grandfather was a communist revolutionary who helped the regime seize power. Now, Wei said this, every day the gold would come in from the Chinese city of Shenzhen. Shenzhen is a huge manufacturing and shipping city. Okay, I get a lot of stuff from Shenzhen. We would go buy it every single day. Some black market shop or tattoo shop, they would buy 10 kilos or 20 kilos or 30 kilos. Now, 30 kilos is about 67 pounds. Okay, that's it's a lot of weight. Then we would sell it in the afternoon on the same day, because there's always buyers ready to buy that gold at discount. I got to admit, I would be one. I would be one down at the Purple Mountain Hotel, and I would be buying gold for 30% back of market. And then I would get on an airplane. I'd put it in my luggage. I'd get on an airplane. I would fly to New York, find the nearest pawn shop, and I would sell the gold. I would make 25% on the money, on the gold, and so would the pawn shop, and I would put the money in my pocket and never look back. Of course I would. You would do it too. Of course, they made money from the price difference. Everybody does. That's the way it works. That's the way the black market works. He became certain that the gold bars he bought and sold were the same ones as those belonging to King Gold Jewelry, because the numbers printed on them matched the range of numbers supposedly printed on King Gold Jewelry gold bars. Wei added that nearly all organized crime groups and triads in Hong Kong were involved in the gold laundering. See? And that's why the cops are never going to look for it. The DA is never going to prosecute it. It just happens every day. If your gold bars end up in the meat grinder, nothing anyone can do about it. No one will ever find it. They were responsible for contacting the buyers, transporting the gold. He noted that all the gold buyers they found were big foreign investors, not Chinese ones. And that's because there's a problem with one person in China buying gold in large quantities, so they were looking for foreign buyers, those from the US, Europe, and Japan. I mean, if somebody in China buys gold and it shows up, in the local wet market, somebody's going to call the cops. You know why? Because they highly incentivize people calling the cops in China. Furthermore, he believes that the people being investigated by the Chinese authorities over the fake gold scandal are just scapegoats, since the scale of this operation is not something one or two people can do. It has to be an organization, 50, 60, 100 people. The gold bars were discovered to be fake in February, but as I said, so many people making money on it and people being paid to be quiet, the media and the Chinese regulators didn't say anything about it until June. Okay, publication was not going to spill the beans and end up getting drilled in the back of the head with the 22. Till this day, nobody knows where the gold is. I can tell you where the gold isn't. I can tell you where it's most likely is. It's in a chain of pawn shops somewhere in New York City. That's why I want to say that the Chinese system is rotten from its roots. And why is this important? Why do I bring this up? Because you know that the global syndicate attacked us in late 2019, right? You're perfectly aware of that. Everyone is. They attacked us, for a couple of reasons. I think they were involved in the global syndicate and they wanted to reap the benefits. And the benefits are that they get the real estate of America when it's all said and done. Somebody in the Wuhan lab thought, you know what, this virus just might do the trick. It's going to incubate for a long time. People aren't going to get really sick when they first get it, so they don't know they have it. So they're going to be taking it to the family reunion, and it's going to spread like wildfire before people get sick. And that's what it did. But it turned out, because you have to understand this one key thing about viruses. This is not an organism. It doesn't reproduce. It doesn't have sex organs. It doesn't eat. It doesn't respirate. All it does is exist as a protein. Now, it has a program. I don't know who wrote the program. Don't know how the program works. But what the program does is once it enters the human body, it uses the human body to manufacture more virus. That's what it's there for. We are the factories for the virus. The virus does not divide on its own. It needs us. It needs our biosystem. It needs to be able to use our cells in order to propagate itself. And therein lies the problem. Because as we, going along, minding our own business, eating cookies and drinking milk, we are a community of cells, specialized cells that access part of our DNA to do a specific function. Pancreatic cells, liver cells, eye cells, skin cells, bone cells, they all get a different part of the code, and that's what they become. That's how they serve the community of the human body. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that when the virus enters the body, it enters the entire body. I'm reading a note in DLive. It says, very laggy, Brooks, if you didn't already know. No, I did not know. But, it happens because, especially after a thunderstorm like this, everybody goes inside and everybody turns on Netflix. And I live in a neighborhood of about 275 homes, plus there's about 1,000 apartments right at the end of the street. And once they all jump on Netflix, it sucks all the bandwidth. So by the time it gets down to my house, it's a little bit slower. But I'm watching all the video feeds. I have 3 video feeds up, and they look to be pretty real time. So I'm watching Foxhole, and it's looking pretty good. I'm watching DLive, and it looks to be a little slow, a little glitchy. but I bet you Twitch is pretty good. Twitch has usually a pretty good feed. But don't dump off of DLive just yet. Don't dump off of there, because what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add some lemons to my people that listen on DLive. So we're gonna toss in, let's toss in about 100 and something. There we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and distribute those now. We're about half hour into the program. I'm gonna go ahead and distribute those now, and we'll just announce who those 5 lucky winners are. So the point I'm trying to make is that once the human body begins making these new proteins, it begins to put its own twist on it. And as luck would have it, the way biochemistry works with the human body is the virus gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Okay? The DNA, the proteins that it takes to make up this virus, they get truncated, they get attenuated, and the virus becomes less and less and less virulent with each 100 or 1,000 or so generations. Our 5 lucky winners: Flawless in the USA, 48.6 lemons. Life of Brian, 28.3. No, the IRS is not listening to this. They don't listen to my program. Water the Roots, 20.8. That's a new name. Like to see a winner out there. And Big D, 1955, who has got to be racking up some lemons, 16.7. Thank you guys so much for being out there. Happy to distribute the lemons. I'm going to go ahead and in Foxhole, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the lotto as well, because you guys have been fantastic, and I went to a class and learned how to do this. So I'm releasing the lotto tickets right now, and that means that you can go in here and you can get a scratch off, or you can add gold pills to your bank account in Foxhole. So now the lotto tickets have been released, and there you go. See, Flawless in the USA has already won a gold pill, and they're off to the races. Good. That'll just continue for the rest of the program. We'll just see how that goes. So here's the deal. This virus didn't do what they thought it would do, but so what they did is they used it and coupled it with a campaign that was put together by the global media empire. Now, the global media empire, you know who they are, right? The 6 white guys that run all the network systems, the CNNs, the ABCs, all the networks, all the cables, all the satellite TV channels are all run by 6 white guys. And so if you get your news, Reuters or AP or any of that, you're going to get it from this system. That's where you're going to get it. I'm going to poison my phone. That should be better. All together. Check. There we go. Now we got it back. So what they do is they use the virus and the fact that you get a little sniffle or a cough or something jumps down in your lungs for 2 or 3 days. They suppress the cure so that you continue to get sick and try to fight this off on your own. And not everybody's got a great immune system like me, or, like the average person that just does 1-2 punch and knocks this thing out. Some people have an immune system that goes into a cytokine storm, which basically is a runny nose, your lungs fill up with fluid, you end up with pneumonia, and you end up really sick. And then what they did is they suppressed the cures. They suppressed ivermectin. They suppressed hydrochloroquine. They suppressed anything that could get you out of harm's way. They suppressed it. Why? Because they wanted to accomplish 2 things. The first primary mission of the made-for-TV virus, the primary mission, was to smash the Trump economy. That's what it was there for. Make no mistake about it. If anybody tells you anything different, they're blowing smoke up your butt, okay? That was primarily done by the global media to smash the Trump economy. Had to be done. Had to be done. And it had to be done in such a way that the one thing that was absolutely saving the world, which was the Trump economy, which was the America First agenda, would take a major economic hit. And it had to be the tune of 6, 7, 8, 10 million jobs lost. That was all due to the global media empire. And you add to that the the three tech giants. Okay, you have Google, and you have Microsoft, and you have Facebook. Twitter, not so much. Twitter was being dominated by Donald Trump. Yes, Jack kind of made himself out to be, a mover and a shaker. But you know what? Twitter is shit without Donald Trump. It's nothing. It has no influence whatsoever. The only thing that makes Jack Dorsey formidable is the amount of cash that he compiled. He tried to sell Twitter before Trump got on Twitter and actually blew it up to 150 million new accounts. Twitter was for sale. And guess what? Yeah, nobody wanted it. They couldn't get a bid. Nobody. That's why Twitter's not owned by Google. That's why Twitter's not owned by Microsoft or Facebook. Twitter was worthless right where it is now. It's worthless. Now, Jack Dorsey has a ton of cash, billions built up. It'd take him a long time to smoke that up or run it up his nose, for sure. But Twitter's gone. Twitter's nothing. Twitter's not an influence like it was. Microsoft, Google, Facebook. Those are the tech giants. And what they did is they went out and bought all of the platforms that were doing the influencing. They bought YouTube. They bought Snapchat. They bought Instagram. You see what I'm saying? It's just those three. That's it. And in the old days, I say the old days, back in the last century, it was Microsoft. Microsoft was the headwaters of all the money. Why? Because of Windows. Windows was a operating system, just like Mac was. And so what Microsoft did is they offered money to program writers if they would write using the Microsoft Windows platform called Pascal. And guess what? Developers did that. I had friends over in Asheville, North Carolina that were writing software that did cool stuff. Were they ever going to be able to do anything with it? Hell no. But they contacted Microsoft, and Microsoft bought the application, bought the software off of them. And so Microsoft became kind of the monopoly of programs. I mean, yeah, the basic stuff. You remember WordPerfect? You remember a little program called WordPerfect? Oh, that was the shit of word processing programs for a long time. They were based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Great program. I used it for years and years. Harvard Graphics, another one. But guess what? Yeah, not Microsoft. Microsoft had Word. Microsoft had PowerPoint. Microsoft had Excel, not Lotus 123. So you see what happened was the tech giants squeezed out all the competition. Now, you could say, they did it the old-fashioned way, right? They acquired, they bought people out, the founders made a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. That's the American way. But it isn't done that way anymore. The way it's done now is those organizations, and you're seeing it right now in Virtual Joe's administration. What they do now is they take the executives, they take the officers, they take the tech people from Facebook, from Google, from Microsoft, and they put them right in the government. Yeah, they put them right in the government. They put them right in the FCC, right in the FDA, right in the Department of Education, right in the Department of Energy. They put them inside the departments, bureaus, agencies, and administrations, and even the cabinet. Yes, Virtual Joe has picked executives right out of Google, right out of Facebook, and put them in his cabinet. That's not capitalism, Earth Explorers. That's fascism. I was sitting in a meeting in the Pentagon. To my left was sitting the Undersecretary of the Air Force. I don't remember his name. This was during the Obama administration. Across from me was an Army general. To my right was a purchaser for the U.S. Army, a purchaser for the U.S. Marines, a purchaser for the U.S. Navy, the secretary, one of the secretaries of what's known as the Small Vehicles Division of the for some reason, the three-letter acronym just escaped me. The GSA, the General Services Administration. And there were some other staffers in there, too. So I'd made a good presentation about the electric truck, and everyone was excited about it, including the General Services Administration. But to my left was sitting the undersecretary who had just met with President Obama at the time. And he said, well, you know, I don't see where a government contract ever succeeded in kicking a company off. I mean, in getting them started. So why don't you, go ahead and go into production, get started up, get some vehicles out there, and then come back and we'll talk again. And I was blown away. I was floored. The general who was sitting right across from me, I believe his name was Banks. He was in the tactical division, not in administrative in the Pentagon. And he showed the most interest of anyone there for the Condor. He was, I think, blown away, too, just by the look on his face, although he didn't really want to say, because this guy to the left of me was in a suit and Banks was in fatigues. But I said, well, with all due respect, Mr. Undersecretary, every single electric vehicle maker got their start with government contracts, from Tesla Motors to Vantage, which was a Chinese company that was in the electric vehicle business, low-speed neighborhood electric vehicles. They all got their start the same way, Mr. Undersecretary, with a government contract. And we have the stakeholders right here at this table. I have 7,000 trucks right here at this table, and it wouldn't hurt anyone. In fact, it would save lives, and it would save millions and millions of dollars in fuel. And all we need is your approval to make this happen. And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. That's fascism. Because dollars to donuts, that Undersecretary of the Air Force right there was from General Motors or Ford. He was there to make sure the Condor never hit the highway. And it was the same thing at the Department of Transportation, which the division we call the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Are they concerned with safety? Hell no. Are they concerned with making sure consumers get a safe vehicle that they can buy and trust for however long that vehicle lasts? No. They don't care anything about that. All they care about is making the process of manufacturing a vehicle, bringing a new vehicle to the highway, so expensive and so prohibitively complex that only the major car makers can afford to do so. In fact, that's their excuse. When you say, why should I have to do an emissions test on an electric vehicle? I don't even have an exhaust pipe. You know what their answer would be? Everyone else has to do it. Why should you be exempt? And I would shake my head. I'm at the EPA in Ann Arbor, Michigan, sitting with the senior guy, which by the name was Clark Gable. He'd there for 40 years. 40 years he was there. Comes to work in sandals. I can guarantee you he had long hair at one time in his life. But I said, what's the point? What do you do with the emissions probe that you're charging $35,000 for this test, and there's a 6-week wait time for each time you run the test? What are you doing with it with an electric vehicle? You put it in the ashtray? There's no tailpipe. There are no emissions. It's a zero emission vehicle. Everybody does it. Why should you be any different? That's what I'm talking about. That's fascism. That's what we're trying to end. So I strayed a little bit from the virus, but that's the whole mission. The mission is to smash the Trump economy, because the Trump economy was the one thing that was shaking the pillars of the empire that they were building. They were essentially transforming America into a fascist government, into a fascist system. And now they make no bones about it. Now they just come right out and say it, because fascism is really the fuzzy dice on the Marxist Jeep. And Marxism is nothing more than tinted windows on communism. It's all communism. And who's driving communism? Right, the global syndicate, because they already control the Communist Chinese Party. They already control the Communist Chinese Party. And they're using the Communist Chinese Party and their formidable military to force their way into less defended countries than the United States. South Africa, Cuba, Venezuela. In fact, the software right now that's working this very second, we're in the middle of July, this very second in Cuba is Chinese software. And what is that software doing? It's preventing the people from communicating with one another. They can't tweet to one another. They can't text to one another. They can't spread the message, hey, let's go down here to the other corner and we will protest there. No, can't do it. They can't communicate with one another. It's all got to be done by hand signals and runners. Only the government is allowed to use the communication system. That's all Chinese. It's all Chinese, and the Chinese are working very closely with Cuba. Why? I'll give you a number. 90. That's why. 90 miles off the coast of Florida. You know where that is? That's our hemisphere. That's our hemisphere. That's Greensboro. Just up the road. 90 minutes. 90 miles. That's it. That's how close cruise missiles could be. That's how close rockets could be. That's how close a radio surveillance or cyber attacks are. They don't need a satellite. They can't get any closer than 90 miles with a satellite. And even then, they only would have a couple minutes at a time because it would go around the Earth, around and around and around. And it had to be higher than 90 miles. It had to be up like 180, 200 miles. 90 miles. They're 90 miles off the coast right now. And they're monitoring us, and they're sending signals into the most densely populated power grid on Earth. So that's why it's all coming together, and that's what it's all aimed for. It's all aimed to do one thing, and it's to smash America. And America was coming back. America was saving the world. America was so inspirational. People were putting yellow vests on in France and refusing to go along with the globalist agenda. People were protesting in Venezuela. People were protesting in Malaysia. People were protesting in Japan and in Hong Kong. Why? Because they saw what President Trump was doing. He was leading the world out of darkness. And the darkness is where these people live. The darkness is where these people feed. Oh, they don't breed. They consume. That's all they do. And they don't like the light. They don't like us to make light. They don't like us to follow the light. They don't like us to congregate in the light. They feed in the dark. All right, we're going to take a quick break here in about 3 minutes. In the meantime, I wanted to let you know, especially those people that are just tuning into us for the first time, I do have a pretty good bookstore. And in that bookstore are 11 books that I've written, co-authored 4 of them with my great co-author, E.J. Clark. And all of these books, except for 2, are in audio as well. And here's the deal. Because you listen to this program, you hear about this deal. You don't hear about it if you go to Amazon and buy the book. Although, if you go to Amazon and buy the book, if you go to Barnes & Noble and buy the book, if you buy the Kindle version, the Nook version, or the paperback version, I'm going to give you the audio version for free. That's right. Inside of each book are the directions, and they're simple. All you have to do is email me and say, I want the audiobook. That's it. Once you use that email address, I'm going to know you about the book because the address is inside the book. I'm going to send you the audiobook. I just had a woman who bought Charm of Favor, which is a fantastic Trumpian thriller. And she bought the book, and then she read it, and then she gave the book to one of her relatives. Well, her and her mother were taking a trip in the vehicle on the July 4th long weekend, and she wanted to share the book with her mom. So she wrote me and asked me for the audiobook, and I sent it to her. And her mother listened to 14 chapters on that trip. I guarantee you they're finishing the book, because once you get to 14, you're so hooked you got to get your way through it. It's a big screen movie. It's a big screen movie in audio. That's what it's designed to be. And guess what? Everything in it is pretty much true. I took a little bit of artistic license here and there, but the stories are true. And the characters that I use to carry you through the story are compelling. And here's what's even better. I'm writing the sequel to Charm of Favor. Right now, I'm on chapter 11. It'll probably end up with 40. But I'm going to have it out before Christmas. And you are going to know about it, because I'm going to let you know through my newsletter, which, by the way, is free. It costs nothing. All you have to do is sign up. It's very easy to do. The link is right down here in this description. Or if you don't have a description for the video that you're watching or the audio that you're listening to, just go to my website, brooksagnew.com, and right on the front, very first button, right there in the middle, in plain English, get the newsletter. Click on it. All you have to do is put your email address in, and it will come to you free. And I send those out twice a week. Now, you can dump it. You can reroute it to spam, although I hope you don't do that, because there's a ton of good information in there. I send good deals out, and the next event that I'm going to be at, and I have a class that I teach in manifestation mastering. And this is what you could do. So do that during the break while you're listening to the break, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes as Revolution Radio does their break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Evasive, but that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
And Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, and there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came and also the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.
Transcending time and space, let us take you place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries wind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Florian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Galactic Interstellar Council on Revolution Radio Studio A, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we traverse the starseed paradigm, as expressed in the time-space continuum that we know as the divine expression of love and light. Integrating this conscious unity into the galactic paradigm, So welcome all, both terrestrial beings and galactic beings as one. So be it. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
If you think for 1 second that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourselves. Because we know who they are and what they do. This is what they do, and we must fight back. You can torture us and bomb us. Fire is catching. And if we burn, you burn with us. Good evening.
Are you awake yet? I hope. We've tried and we've tried for years and years to use passive resistance and loud voices to make a change. The time is over. Your governments around the world have no other goal than to decimate your entire existence at the hands of the bankers and the elites. The war is coming, and it's your choice to decide if you want to be a warrior or a victim. Denial is not a choice anymore. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the planet. Not giving up. Revolution Radio. All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
All right. Good. First hour's in the can, and you're here with me. Go ahead and switch over to my Jupiter backdrop. So what I wanted to do before we start this hour is I want to share with you a couple things on the website. Let's go back to, hold on 1 second. Got so many screens here. So this is the website at brooksagnew.com. Couple things. And this is important because it's already July, and we have about 25 tickets left. If you go up here to events, you see where it says upcoming events. We're going to click on upcoming events, and what is going to come up here is the event at Mount Shasta. Now, this is going to be really important for you because you can get great discounts here. This is Mount Shasta. It's August 26th through 29th. If you're within 300 miles of Mount Shasta, you've been locked up for the better part of a year. No personal interaction with other humans, and certainly no face-to-face training or inspiration or any vibration, any exposure to any high vibrations. Yes, music and webinars and all that, yes, but it only goes so far. Heart to heart, hand to hand, this is where it happens. So this next month, the 26th through 29th in Mount Shasta, if you click on this right here, this banner, it's going to take you to Eventbrite. And Eventbrite is going to hook you up with a ticket. And this is everything that's there. It talks about who's going to be there, what schedule. It's chock full of information. So that's the one thing you need to get to. The other thing, if you're not into a live event and you don't have the money to get there and you don't want to take the time and you're not working or whatever, that I understand that. We may record this and it may stream at a later date, but things are happening so fast now. The other thing is, right below it is DisclosureCon. If you're not ready to go in August, maybe you'll be ready to go in October. This is October 2nd. This is DisclosureCon, okay? This is a disclosure conference, like a Comic-Con, only this is Disclosure Con. And this is put on by Doc Skinner, so this is a world-class event. It's well-produced. It has great content, great speakers. It's well-organized. And it is also in the northern part of Arizona, in an area called Pine Top, Arizona. Easy to get to if you're anywhere in the Northwest. If you're anywhere else, you're going to have to fly to Phoenix, and this is where you get tickets to get to that. And then don't forget, the Human Origins Conference is coming up in May, and we're going to be at the Patriot Voice after this Disclosure Con. I'm not going to promote that one just yet. I don't know how much the tickets are going to be, but it's going to be the 22nd of October. It'll seat about 5,000 patriots, and it's going to be epic. It's going to be huge. Now, the other thing that you get by going to my website, you see this about right here? This is a little known secret, but I write poetry. And if you click on this poetry link, by the way, all this is free. I don't sell my poetry. I gift my poetry. Okay? Yes, it's all copyrighted, but I'm still not going to charge for it. And here are all the poems that I'm happy to share with you. Tears for a Lamp, The Arrival. Let's see if I can read one for you. I like Sound of the Moon. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe not Sounds of the Moon. That's a good one. You should read it. I'm going to read I'll Remember. Okay? And these audios are in here too. You can click on this and listen to I'll Remember by audio, but I guess not the same if you look me in the eye and let me read it to you. I'll remember. When there is nothing left to sing, and that final flake of light flutters into darkness, I'll remember. When the future meets the past, all in the way we kiss and the way you make it last, I'll remember. Oh, the days we danced and the rains we soaked and the hands we held and the pains we felt between the smiles we shared. When the last wind dies and the last star twinkles its last vibration, I'll remember. The castles we built and the times we wished and the gifts we gave and the glass we poured around the ice we melted. When the universes fold and the next I am begins, to let light become the new garden we can walk, I'll remember. Just little treats. Get to share them because you're a listener of America Free Radio, and I can't express my appreciation enough to you. So let's go on to the next story. Some people want to know, how do we remove a board member? I mean, if we want to get rid of a school board member, how do we get rid of them? We go to the school board and they're talking smack up there about how they're going to keep our kids in a mask and 6 feet apart and no playground and everybody's got to get vaccinated. And by the way, we're going to teach critical racist theory to your kids. How do we get rid of them? What do you do? Well, in some instances, a school board member will fail to meet the duties assigned to him. And if members of the district recognize this failure, then they may try to remove the board member from the school board. This option can be effective at rejuvenating a school when a board member's incompetence or unethical practices prevent the board as a whole from moving forward in support of students. Every single state does allow and does follow basically the same procedure for removing school board members. So listen closely. You got to request copies of public documents and media, such as television interviews or recordings from school board meetings that may support your assertion that the board member qualifies for removal. The specific documents you may need to request may differ based on the circumstances, but good places to start are the school board meeting minutes and the board member's term contract. Any public document has to be provided to you. They cannot deny it to you under the Freedom of Information Act. Now, you got to make a formal list of complaints against the board member you wish to remove. And you got to be as specific as you can. They use profanity. They're racist. And you need to be specific. You can't just name call people. I don't like white people. I don't like Jewish people. No. You must be specific. You got to cite clauses from the documents and the media, as well as information such as the dates of the violations and the names of any other people involved. You need to do this. Then you draw up a formal petition stating your reasons for recalling the board member. And then this comes the hard part, because you can do all this, in your basement in your pajamas. But then you have to contact the Board of Elections for your county. And you got to ask them for a list of names and addresses for members of the school district in which the board member serves. You got to inquire as to the percentage of signatures needed in your specific district to put a recall on the ballot. It depends. Some school board members run by district. So most counties are the ones that run the school budget. They're the ones that operate the buses. They're the ones that operate the schools, pay the teachers. It's a huge budget. It's usually the biggest budget of any county. And that being said, it has a certain number of electors, or a certain size of neighborhood that goes with that particular school board member. Like in our county, board members were from specific neighborhoods. Now, we only had about 35,000 people in our counties. We had 4 school board members. I felt that was a little bit low, so I put together a resolution, and I read it before the city council and the county commission, and I requested for a 5th school board member, because it changed the balance of power. Instead of all the power resting in the hands of 4 people, I also did the same thing on the city council. We made it more people. And what this did, it gave people more representation, because instead of representing, 5,500 or 6,500 people, they were only representing 3,500 people. And so it made it easier to put a recall together to move them out. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to regain control over your own government. Then you have to publish the notice of intent to recall in any public newspaper for the school district in which the board member serves. And usually that's the local paper or the county paper. There's, in most cities, 1 or 2 that are prominent. You got to file copies of the published notice or proof of publication affidavit and copies of the petition at the county clerk's office. You're going to have about 4 months, 5 months to file after the publication, based on the district's population of registered voters. The board member will have 1 week to respond to your filing. If they don't, it goes in your favor. If they do, it goes in your favor, because they're probably going to say things that incriminate themselves. You wait for the election officials to review your filing. If the officials find your petition and notice meet the standards for a recall, they will offer you a certificate of sufficiency, and they will issue an order to place your recall on a special or general election ballot. If the election officials find that your documents do not meet the standards for recall, they will offer a certificate of insufficiency, and they will keep your petition on file. Doesn't mean you can't file again. In fact, you probably learned some lessons if that one doesn't work. And then you got to remind the district members of the date, the time, and the location of the recall vote once it happens. You recall that board member and you throw them out of office. It's that easy. Now, that video that you guys saw out there that showed where the board members decided they weren't going to They weren't going to put up with this verbal abuse, and they stood up and they walked out of their own school board meeting. And then the parents who were there, and they were mad, they said, well, we hereby vote all these guys out of office, and we're going to elect a new school board. You know, it was a good thing to do because it showed how committed the people were, but it probably didn't have any legal standing. I'd be interested to see what's going on in that county now. Okay, going to give you a quick drone wars update. You know, I like to do this because I think drones are pretty much at the heart of any modern warfare. And so therefore, defense against drones, at least domestically, is also got to be on your local radar. And fortunately, I have designed lots of systems that foil drones, even swarms of drones, killer drones. If they come in your neighborhood, you use my countermeasures, those drones will be worthless. You'll take them right out of the sky. But from time to time, I run across a drone program that's more than we can handle. It's more than we, the people, can deal with. I mean, I like designing my own drone killers. And now you got to come up with drone killing drones. It's easy enough, but not this time. This drone will escape all known methods to detect it and neutralize it. So if you're in the Department of Defense tonight, you need to listen up. You need to listen up. And if you know somebody that works in the DOD or at the Pentagon, there are about 1.5 million people that are directly tied to the Pentagon. And if you're listening yourself, which a lot of them do, I'm sure, listen to America Free Radio because of the quality of the content we have here, because listening to this program will treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This drone is going to escape, and it's deadly. And there are even more stealthy ones than this one I'm about to describe to you. And there are two weaknesses of what are called undersea drones. First, they can't communicate with the people who sent it. Okay? There's no way to tell it to attack, no way to tell it to stand down, no way to tell it to return to base. If it is discovered and destroyed, it cannot let its owners know about it. It just never shows up at its destination. Second, once it is released and it is on its way, it can never be retrieved until it arrives at a specific place and time. Let me say that one more time. Once it is released, once a sea-based drone, an undersea drone is released and sent on its way, it can never be retrieved until it arrives at a specific place and time. There is no finding it. There's no homing beacon. There's no blinking light. It can be reprogrammed or pre-programmed to arrive at a point where it can be searched for and retrieved. But if it doesn't arrive at that certain point, you're not going to find it. When I tell you about the propulsion system, it's going to blow your mind. And the Chinese have just released a drone that has AI aboard. And this makes it even more dangerous. Because all of those weaknesses I just described to you, that once it goes underwater, there's no calling it up. There's no saying, hey, head over to this city, or be careful, there's a sub in your area. There isn't any of that. But with AI, the drone becomes self-aware. It means that as time goes on, it gathers more data, and it can make up its own mind whether to attack or whether to terminate itself. It can disobey orders. It can wait for years, yes, years, before making its move. And a new report claims that China has, apparently, for a long time now, been working on underwater drones able to autonomously identify and attack hostile submarines. The once secret unmanned underwater vehicle, or what they call a UUV, may already have been tested in the strategically vital Taiwan Strait back in 2010 during the Obama administration. These revelations come from a military-funded research program that was partly declassified last week. That's how fresh this data is, okay? The UUV in question is said to be able to recognize, follow, and attack an enemy submarine without any human instruction. And it was developed by guess where? Yeah, not China. It was developed by the Harbin Engineering University. By the way, it's described as Beijing's top submarine research institute. Yeah, and guess who gave it its technology? Right. The Chinese HSU-001 unmanned underwater vehicle has no details that have been released. I can tell a lot by looking at it. I can tell you that this thing can go for a long time underwater. It is roughly 18 feet long, very small, about smaller than a whale. The concept, as reported in the outline by Guo Long and his colleagues at the Institute, seemed to be based around using artificial intelligence technologies to better identify and track submerged targets, promising results better than human sonar operators. Once it locks on to a sub, like a prop signature or a certain sound that a certain submarine will make, it can follow it for years, undetected. Nevertheless, no details are given in the article or in the description exactly how the UUV would identify and classify underwater targets. Acquiring them using sonar? Probably not. It would be listen only. It wouldn't put out a signal of its own. And how it is powered and what kind of performance it might offer. Now, some of these drones have what is called a ballast glide engine. And if I could demonstrate this, I can't demonstrate it because I'm not underwater. But let's say this is the profile of the drone, okay? And it's kind of flat like this pad is. If I were to have a forward motion of this, I could steer it up or down, right? I could move its planes up or down. So the idea is to create forward motion. So what they do is they blow the ballast. And what that means is that this thing will actually float because the ballast, the water, will have been blown out of the weight of this. When they blow the ballast in the front of the sub, so it tilts up like this. And they make it lighter than the water. So it begins to float to the surface, right? But when it does, it glides like this. That's why it's called a ballast glide engine. Now I can glide like that at a small angle, kind of slow, 6-8 knots maybe if it's thin enough. And it can go like that for a couple miles. And then guess what happens? This ballast regains and this ballast blows. It tilts this way and it starts down that way. And it can fall to 3, 4, 5,000 feet depth and then tilt the other way. So this thing can use its ballast to swim its way through the water. Now guess how much sound it makes when it does this? None. It's totally undetectable. You can't. It makes less sound than a whale. So it could travel like this for years, and it can have a virtually undetectable power system. Then when it needs to go fast, like when it comes across a sub that's doing 30 knots underwater, that's going to make a heck of a bow shock, a heck of a signature in the water. It locks onto that. It can turn its engines on and zoom up to 40 miles an hour underwater, 40 knots, 30, 40 knots, and slam into the side of that sub and end it. And the sub will never know what hit it. And it doesn't have to just do subs. It can also do surface ships. And it doesn't have to do just surface ships. It can do oil silos, petroleum silos. And it doesn't just have to do that. I would have this picture. I should have thought about it. If you look in the Gulf of Mexico from space and you use special photography, the water's quite deep, 5,000 feet deep. And there are some 27,000 oil platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. Some of them, most of them, not active. But they don't scrap them out. They don't go out there and cut them up. They just leave them in place and move on. What is left on the bottom of the sea, though, bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of pipeline. Yeah, lots of pipelines crossing and crisscrossing and connected to one another, laying on the bottom. And they pump oil through these things from city to city, up and down the Gulf of Mexico, and it's huge. It's elaborate. So, yes, it's under 5,500 feet of water. So it's pretty safe from any attack from the surface. You're not going to bomb it, but you could stealth drone it. And if you blew up those pipelines, you would turn the entire Gulf of Mexico into one giant oil slick. That is, and you would also, you remember when they were testing the fences by shutting down the Colonial gasoline pipeline that goes right through 17 states of Trump country, including North Carolina, where I live, and they shut off the flow of gasoline. So the stations that fill up the tanker trucks that drive to the places like Circle K and 7-Eleven and QT, and they don't fill up. They don't get their gas. So once the tanks in or above the ground run out, you're out until that gas pipeline turns on again. They've already tested that. They already know how to shut that down. But that's just one pipeline. Underneath the Gulf of Mexico, laced all over the bottom, up and down the coast, are hundreds of pipelines. They're shorter, but you start rupturing those things and you interrupt the flow of oil from those deep wells to the refineries on the coast, you accomplish the same thing with much longer term damage and environmental damage. So the issue with these drone torpedoes is these are basically torpedoes. They're basically torpedoes. They're armed, they're smart, and they're stealthy. And, you know, if you get, and they've tested them. They had an unarmed torpedo that was reportedly fired by the UUV toward the simulated submarine. While the size and type of the torpedo are not stated, if this was a conventional size weapon of this type, it would suggest a large size underwater drone, perhaps similar to the American Orca, extra large unmanned underwater vehicle that's now under development. In its initial form, it was 51 feet long, and it was designed to be unarmed, but you know that can change in an afternoon or less. China has its rough equivalent of the Orca. I'm not too worried about it because everything China builds falls apart like a daisy smack with a 9-iron. But still, it could be devastating. As K. Kin on YouTube says, "Here come the nukes. It was nice to know ya." It could be, although, you know, once you cross that line, you risk having the same thing done to you. I don't think undersea nukes would be used as a first strike weapon. I don't, and I'll tell you why. Because the most effective use of a first strike weapon when it comes to nuclear signatures is an EMP. And the Russians and the Chinese both have what are called super EMP weapons. These are weapons that are tuned to detonate with specific frequencies and voltages that optimize or maximize its efficiency as an EMP weapon. That means electromagnetic pulse. That pulse puts millions of volts into the air. That voltage is looking for some way to get to ground. It uses the power grid or any other circuitry that has a wire that's long enough to pick up that voltage. And it literally burns through the insulation. You know, you've received chips, right, for your laptop, or maybe a new graphics card for your computer. Yes. You know the bag that it comes in? You know, it kind of looks kind of dark silvery. The reason it's in that bag is to deflect static electricity that might be on your body. You know, if you ever shuffled your feet across the floor and touched a metal object like a doorknob, you'll notice that the voltage jumps from you, which has all the electrons built up on it, to the doorknob. Why? Because it's looking for ground. It's looking for a way to ground. So it's taking the better conductivity of the doorknob and it's jumping to it. And you feel the shock. That's about 35,000 volts. It can be up to 40,000 volts. That's why that bag is around that chip. That's why that bag is around that graphics card, to prevent that 25 or 35,000 volt shot. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about 10 million volts. You see, that takes special shielding. It takes special awareness. The best thing is to disconnect it from any circuit so it can't find its way to ground, especially in switch yards, the little control boards that monitor the wattage that's being transferred from a transformer to the switch gear so that you can control it, so that you can see what the load is going to be. That's how they know, is all that complex circuitry. But if that circuitry fries, or even worse, if all that electricity goes on the local power lines and it looks for a way out back to the nuclear power plant, it's going to go into that 13,800 or 14,400 volts auto tap transformer at the substation near your house, and it goes backwards. Instead of stepping down, it steps up. So where it's usually stepping down from, let's say, 161,000 volts to 14,400 volts to get on your local power grid so it can hit the transformers near your house and step down to the voltage that you use in your home, it all goes backwards. So instead of stepping down, it's stepping up. Now you're taking that 3 or 4 or 5 million volts and you're stepping it up to 60, 70 million volts. And it's virtually endless supply because it's been put out by this electromagnetic pulse. It goes backwards through the transformer. It jumps right through the insulating oil inside that transformer and burns holes in the plates that make up the transformer. That transformer's done. It's done. It's never going to work again. And that transformer's anywhere from $200,000 to $1 million. It depends on the size of the amperage and the amount of voltage that it's stepping down. You know how many they have in spare? None. Zero. You know where the company is that makes those things? Yeah, probably China. Now you see what the issue is. I don't think undersea torpedoes with nukes on them are a first strike weapon. I think the airburst super EMPs are the first strike weapon. That's how you want to knock the lights out. Makes the battlefield much, much smaller. So these are pretty much designed to defend against counterattack. Okay, if they have AI in them and they're looking for aggressive moves that are being made by submarines or by destroyers or frigates, a destroyer would carry cruise missiles and a frigate would carry cruise missiles, and this would be a big problem, but they're going to have to do aggressive moves in order to get in position to be able to launch those things. And if they're in an aggressive move on the water, these AI torpedoes, these drones, can pick it up and can zero in on them, and that's why it's really a first-line naval defense weapon, not a first-strike offensive weapon. All right, let's move on. There's a lot in here. I'm not going to put it in the newsletter, but I may grab some more from this and put it in subsequent programs because there are a lot of details. The Navy's working on one. It's I don't know. I'm looking at it. I always look at these things from an engineering standpoint because my job is to find flaws in processes. So it's called the failure mode effect analysis. And what we do in a failure mode effects analysis, we look for ways for it to break. We look for ways to a bad part to slip through the system, or an operator to get involved and circumvent inequality systems and let a bad part get through the system. It happens every single day with cars and everything. So we try to put systems in place to stop that. So I'm looking at their design of what they call their MK60, which is a mine actually. And I'm looking at ways to pick it apart, and I'm finding several. So I don't know if I don't want to cover that because I want to move on to the things. It's my program. I'll do what I want to do. And thank you all for listening on YouTube. I'm assuming, if you guys will give me a nod, that the throttling that was going on in YouTube in the first part of the first hour is gone, because a lot of you are hanging out on YouTube. There's several hundred of you. And we still have DLive and Twitch. And this is good. And of course, we have a tremendous Foxhole audience. Foxhole's growing by leaps and bounds. They're doing such a great job in the audio quality and in the video quality and in the look of the faceplate. I mean, you people in Foxhole, you gotta love this. It's good looking stuff. Methods, who's the founder of Foxhole, feeds off of a lot of the technology that's provided by a website called pilled.com. And together, they've done a fantastic job, and they're adding the best of the best. So these hosts, they don't just come from, applicants that say, hey, wouldn't you like to be on Foxhole? They are chosen by Foxhole. So we were so fortunate and so highly complimented to be included on the Sunday night and Wednesday night slots at 8 o'clock. Just highly complimented. I mean, excellent quality, like Salty Cracker and the NPC Show and Good Dog and Magical Trevor and PSP. And these are the best of the best here. Red Pill Project, X22 is on here, Patriot News, Truth and Art TV. These are the best of the best, okay? And to be on the same page with them is just very highly complimenting to me, and I appreciate what they do so much for us. Okay, hit the like button. You don't have to headbang. You can do that, but don't forget to hit the like button while you're in there. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the global syndicate banking system. It is going to affect you. Yes, the fake gold thing in China is probably going to ripple through the system, and we'll let you know how that affects the price of gold and silver. And, I got to be honest, I have a pretty good amount of money. Let's just say it's somewhere around 55,000 or so that's out there in the stock markets and cryptocurrencies and things like that. But that account, let's just say it's 55,000. It was 55,000 a month and a half ago, and now it's at $16,009. Yeah, I don't know many of you that would just sit around and just take a loss like that, but the stock market is a long-term thing, and you have to look at it that way, and you can't panic, and you have to pretty much kiss off the money that you put in there anyway, because you just threw it up a horse's ass. But I'm a little disappointed, because I do see that the Dow seems to be holding its own, and I don't play the Dow. I play individual stocks and go off my own analysis. But I'm not really speculative. I invest in banks. I invest in lithium mines. I invest in online entertainment companies that own stuff like Candy Crush. I know they're killing it. They got to be killing it. Everybody I see is playing some kind of online game. Well, these are publicly traded companies that fund this stuff, even though they're developers that develop the games. And I'm very disappointed in the value of these shares. And I think that these stocks are actually undervalued now, especially the lithium mines. But I'm seeing what appears to me to be market manipulation by the banking system. Now, we have always said, in every business I've ever been in, every investor circle that I've golfed in, cash is king, right? Cash is king. Cash is anonymous. Cash is dangerous. But now the banking system has finally got the Department of Justice and the FBI and several financial authorities to agree that cash is actually the currency of crime. And banks are now making purchasing decisions for their customers. Now, normally you say, well, it's my money. I'll pull out my debit card. I'll buy what I damn well please, right? I'll buy, I'll buy a happy ending body rub, or I'll buy, wheels for my truck, or I'll buy a gun, anything I want. And it's a widely held belief that the U.S. law requires that businesses accept cash payments from their customers. And some people take the argument a step further, arguing that if a business refuses to accept cash, the business loses its ability to charge the customer. But guess what? Neither of those are true. And I sometimes ask when I go into a business, do you accept cash? And of course, the cashier always says, oh, silly, of course we accept cash. And then I always say, well, it pays to ask, because there's going to come a day when the answer's no, we don't accept cash in this establishment. They don't accept cash on the airline, right? You have to use a debit card. You want to eat, don't take $20. Take a debit card. Paper currency in the United States is printed with the provision that it is legal tender for all debts, public and private. That's language that flows from the provisions of a federal law, 31 U.S.C. Section 5103. Now, the United States coins and currency, including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banks, are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. Foreign gold or silver coins, guess what? Not legal tender for debts. The principal purpose of that statute is to ensure the nationwide acceptance of U.S. currency. In other words, they don't want anybody to circumvent the almighty dollar. Now, while the statute provides that the U.S. money is legal tender, it may be accepted for the payment of debts. It doesn't require acceptance of cash payments, and it doesn't provide that restrictions cannot be imposed upon the acceptance of cash. Although, as a general rule, a private business may restrict or refuse to accept cash payments, especially if it's a large bill and they can't make change because they don't have enough change out of the safe to do so. Although, as a general rule, a private business, can throttle this back. For example, some states require that a landlord accept rent payments in cash, and that's largely to benefit what I call the bankless millions. That would be mostly illegal aliens. However, it's not exclusive to them. There are a lot of people that just are bandits. They don't have a regular job. They wash cars, or they sell sex, or they, do what are called gigs, music, art, things like that, and they get irregular payments of money, and irregular I mean timing and amount. So you might get paid once every 3 months, but you're paid $20,000. See what I'm saying? So it could be irregular, and it could be irregular amounts, not normal amounts. Now, normally what we find with these bankless millions is they don't have bank accounts, sometimes because they don't have a permanent address. They move around, they're transients, or they move around with crops or seasons or racetracks or whatever. And sometimes it's because they just don't want to be found. Maybe they're fugitives and they just don't have an address. And that's where the class where all the illegal aliens are. So what they do is they rent in cash. They work the fields, they wash dishes, and they do so below market rates, and they accept cash. Do they work 8 hours a day? No. They probably work 12 to 16 hours a day, twice what you do, to make a little more than half again as much money as you do. But they don't have any debts. They don't have any overhead. They live 4 or 5 families to a house. So they can split the rent, and they don't live in high rent districts. They live in low rent districts. So they take a house that rents for $750 a month. They put 5 families in there, and everybody mows grass. Or everybody, installs upholstery or lays carpet. That's another big one. Carpet layers. They make good money, especially if they show up sober and they do good work. Contractors will keep booking them over and over and over again, and they can make $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month cash. And believe me, contractors are perfectly willing to pay in cash. I've done it many times myself. Bricklayers, painters, drywall layers, they all live on cash. And so they require landlords to accept rent payments in cash. When acceptance of cash payment is required by state law, the state will often impose a penalty or other consequence on a business that refuses to accept cash. That being said, it's going to limit your lifestyle. Can you buy a plane ticket? Yeah. Can you rent a car? No. Can you rent a hotel room with cash? No. You see, it's going to cramp your style. So the failure to comply with state law does carry some penalties. But here's where it gets kind of interesting. Yeah, they can refuse to accept cash. But what if you do use a debit card? What if you whip out your ID because it says CID on the back of your card, and you whip out your card and you're ready to buy, and they refuse to sell to you? Huh? How could that be? Well, a major credit card payment handler refused to process transactions involving, guess what? Online gun sales. Yep. And it has stirred the pot, let me tell you, because it's just the beginning. The controversy started in September of last year when a company called Authorize.net. Now, you may not know who Authorize.net is, but every single time you whip out a major credit card, if it's a Visa or a MasterCard or whatever, it goes through what's called a payment gateway. And Authorize.net is one of the biggest payment gateways. Now, it specializes in doing a couple things very, very well. One is it protects your identity. It doesn't allow anybody else to use your card but you. And they specialize in that, and they're pretty damn good at it. But they ended its business relationship with a company called Hyatt Gun Shop right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a pretty good-sized gun shop, and they have a really big online presence. And there are other gun stores, too. There's a Gun Wholesaler, there's Eagle, there's a bunch of online gun sellers, and they sell guns, they sell magazines, they sell ammunition, they sell all kinds of accessories for guns like folding stocks and flash hiders and grips and scopes and all kinds of stuff at huge discounts. But Authorize.net sent an email to Hyatt Gun Shop, and they said that since Hyatt sells guns, it is a violation of Authorize.net's acceptable use guidelines. Well, let me tell you something. That didn't go over too well because Julie Anderson, who's Hyatt's marketing director, and told a reporter for a company called creditcards.com that Authorize.net had already been doing business with Hyatt for 4 years. Yeah, we're talking about over $1 million worth of business. Nothing wrong, nothing changed, nothing was ever said. Then they said, when we approached them to do business with us, the first thing we did was make sure we were all completely clear about the nature of our business. We sell guns. We do sell guns online. And at the time, there were no problems. But President Trump was president of the United States. Now, credit card payment gateways like authorized.net, they do encrypt the card data. They do a great job at that. When a card user presses purchase and then receives a confirmation, the gateways provide a critical service. But they have a terms of service on their website. We read it. Here's what it says. And be ready and listen closely. Terms of service prohibits transactions involving, now listen closely, anything pornographic, anything obscene, threatening, abusive, harassing, defamatory, or anything associated with illegal gambling, illicit drugs. And right at the end, they just recently added, and the sale of firearms. Oh, wait a minute now. Anderson, or authorized.net, is saying, or this creditcards.com is saying, that it is unfair to lump legal gun sales in with illegal drugs, prostitution, pornographic, obscene, abusive, anything like that. You can't do that. You can't do that because the U.S. Constitution protects the sale and purchase of guns. It blows my mind that a company like Hyatt, that is already so heavily regulated anyway, would fall into a situation like this. I mean, a lot of gun businesses have been dropped by authorized.net, and they have no right to do it. And they've been dropping them right and left. But you can't buy guns in cash online. You have to find another way. And why should we do that? We're law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. We're trying to legally buy a weapon that we are authorized and cleared to buy. But authorized.net is saying, no. We're not going to approve the sale. What do you mean? You're not approving the sale. It's a Visa. It's a MasterCard. It's a Diners Club. I don't even know if they have Diners Club anymore. And it processes through authorized, and authorized says we're not going to do it. So it looks like the small but noisy anti-gun crowd has gotten to what must be a jelly-spined PR department at CyberSource and authorized.net. Either that or leadership at these companies has simply become anti-gun all on their own. I doubt it, because everyone is addicted to cash. Whatever the cause, authorized.net is making it clear that business and owners that are lawfully selling firearms are undesirable and they need not apply. By the way, spokespersons for Visa and its authorized.net and CyberSource units, they didn't respond to creditcard.com's request for comment. Now, we're not going to say a word about it. Doesn't mean anything to us. Whatever the reason, this report says that as authorized.net left gun shops in a lurch, other payment gateways stepped in. Almost the most active is Payment Alliance International of Louisville, Kentucky. Or if you live in Louisville, Kentucky, it's Louisville, which has built relationships with the National Rifle Association and the National Shooting Sports Foundation. I told you there are other ways. Other ways. Just like Twitter. Twitter at one time when President Trump had 100 million accounts that were following him, Twitter was making money. And you know why? Because advertisers were putting stuff on Twitter and they were selling it to the people who were following Trump. And they bought stuff because they were working and they were making money, and those ads caught their eye. But guess what's happening now? Nothing. Twitter is nowhere. No ads. It's a fourth the size that it was. 75% of their accounts gone. And the remaining 25%, they're doing nothing. They're not buying anything. They're not buying ads. They're not selling anything. They're doing nothing. They're just reading newspaper articles. Twitter's dead. It's gone. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to even buy it. Jack Dorsey is going to overdose. He's going to be done, out of here. He's not an influencer anymore. Facebook, Google, Microsoft, very strong. They may be the strongest financial organizations in the world. And I call them financial organizations because they are. Because when the Senate and when the Congress is sitting across from that little table with the booster chair, and they say, Mr. Zuckerberg, what are you going to do about this? And he says, well, Senator, I'm not going to do a damn thing about it, and there's nothing you can do about it. That senator says, well, yeah, you're right. And why does he do that? Because if he gets put in Facebook jail for 30 days, he loses his election. And that's the truth. All right, listen. Wednesday nights can get a little intense, and I really appreciate you guys hanging in there, whether you were wearing your seatbelts or not. You're listening on all these different media, and there's hundreds of you everywhere, and you're going to be talking to people tomorrow, and all these archives are going to go out there, and about 14,000 other people in the next week are going to listen to them, and that's what it's here for. But I wouldn't be here without you. America Free Radio is the voice of the revolution, and my name is Brooks Agnew. And I want you to go out and look for the good in others and help it to grow a little bit every day. Don't fall for the hatred game. Don't be drawn into their negativity. We are a positive, loving, generous, and benevolent people. And we're going to stay that way. And no one's ever going to turn us dark. We will stay together. We will love together. We will purpose together. And we will save the Republic of the United States of America. I'll see you guys on Sunday at 8 o'clock. Same place. All known streaming services known to man. And we'll be right here. And thank you all. Thanks Baba Susie and Life of Brian and Blue Water and Kay Kin and all the people that hung with me for the entire 2 hours. You're great. And by the way, Nina, that's a shout out to Nina because she's watching tonight too. Thank you so much. And you're doing great. Don't let anybody tell you you're not. You're gonna do fine. Okay? See you Sunday night, 8 o'clock, right here on America Free Radio.